Hello, my name is Kure, and this is the first ever podcast for the Men of Honor. And I'm so excited to be on this one because it's been a long time coming. I've been trying to figure out something that I'll be doing for the rest of my life. And to have figured this out in the last few months has been absolutely incredible. I've gone through a journey where I initially started off being a PUA and started helping people how to become more confident in terms of attracting women. And it's something that I enjoyed a lot in my life, where not enjoyment is in for my personal gain, but what I enjoyed the most was helping people to transform their view of themselves and actually getting that confidence into speaking to the opposite sex and be having a girlfriend for the first time, and not just having a girlfriend for the first time, but going on to getting married and children and having a very happy life post them being nervous and not even knowing whether they were going to be able to get a girlfriend. So those were the wins that I managed to get, and over time I ended up stopping to doing that, and I got married myself, and I left that sort of life because it was one of those lives that wouldn't have been able to continue living that life even though when I was married. So I went back, and then I joined into the normal prescribed thing. So you prescribe from a child, you prescribed to actually you have to go to school by the age of 4 or 5. You go preschool, and then you go to primary school, and then you do secondary school or high school, and then from there you go to university. Once you finish university, then you go to work, and there's this model that's been shaped for many years, and this is where everybody's supposed to go through. And it's something that you're prescribed, and it's something that and when I say prescribed, it's like when you go to a doctor, they tell you what medicine you should take, and you're just at the mercy of somebody else. And whereas if there is more and more people that are beginning to realize that you can actually live your life by design. You can actually design your own life and decide where you want it to go in terms of gaining that complete freedom. Because even though you're earning a ridiculous amount as a surgeon, for instance, there's still constraints and there's no complete freedom. So whether it's and that complete freedom can mean anything to anyone. It could be financial freedom, could be freedom to raise your kids, freedom to expand on the relationships that you have within your life with your partner, or So I've come to that point where I've realized that I can live my life by design. And the first time I figured this out was when I lived in London. This is a story I'll expand on another day. But I left London and I found myself with my soon-to-be wife. But I think she was my wife at that point, and I was not working, and we lived in a council house. And at the time, because I was not working and she was earning a low amount, we couldn't afford the rent, and it was the most difficult time. And I remember the time the people for the council were now ringing saying they need that money. They wanted the rent to be paid. We couldn't afford to do that. And at the time, because I'd moved in with her, she was one that won the tenancy agreement for the council house. Anyways, what happened was the fact that we couldn't pay, and it was a very difficult time and very discouraging time for me as a man, because at that point I thought I was the one that was supposed to provide. I was supposed to be the one that's going to help us to have a better life and everything else. And because I've been prescribed this model of success, for instance, where I have to go to school, get a good qualification, and then start working, and then provide for my family, I felt like a failure at that point. And going back to the schooling system, I was never really good in school either. So I had no proper qualification. The only qualification I had was in aerospace engineering, and I knew that was something that I was passionate about, other than just being a dating coach. So I found myself in this situation where I was I did not have money. I had nothing to provide but my love to my wife at the time, and it was so discouraging. I felt quite depressed, and I had nobody to speak to. And I think when you got men of honor type groups where you can actually go and speak to people, this is the sort of reason why this Men of Honor exists. And if you're interested in Men of Honor, by the way, it's a support group for men where we meet on Facebook, and you can get some support for your relationships, for parenting and your finances, and we talk about everything, and everything is kept within the group, so you can confide in us, and then we can actually help you through any situation you're going through. But in that situation, I didn't have this for myself, so I just suffered in silence, basically, and I couldn't speak to anybody who could relate or at least advise me to where to go. So I decided to just try my best by looking for work. And while I was doing all of that, I remember speaking to the lady from the council. She said she was going to come to the house, and when she did, she came with a box full of food, and there was tin food and everything else. So if you in the UK, you get, when you go to supermarkets, they always have these places where you can put extra food. So if you buy an extra tin, you put it in there. It's like a donation point, and all that food goes to a what they call a food bank, and then the council distributes it to the most vulnerable people. And I remember that woman knocking on my door, and then I found her there with this box full of food, and she said, I know that you guys are struggling, and I would like to give you this. And at that point, that was the lowest point, because I felt like I had failed at that point as a man and as a husband, and it just was crushing in terms of confidence. So I had no confidence whatsoever. But at that point, I realized that this is the lowest point of my life, and because it's the lowest point, at this point, I'm going to really make a conscious decision that this will never happen again. So at that point, that's when I really discovered that you can actually live your life by design, because at that point, I started mapping out exactly where I wanted to be. So I decided I wanted to go and really continue with my engineering, and then went to college. Of course, I was now living the prescribed life, and I thought initially that was the right way of doing things. So I went on to start my college, did the courses, and then got a job as an engineer, and then just progressed from there. And I've soon gone on to create my own self-employed company where I work as a contractor, and we've made decent amount of wage. But that's not where, because at that point I actually realized at some point that this is still within the framework of what's been prescribed to me, but I was not truly living that complete freedom. And that's the thing that I started desiring the most, because I saw my wife, my kids, that I was working so many hours. And this is where many people find themselves when you live that prescribed life, that you've been prescribed to get this qualification and do this job, but in order for you to make more money or create more comfort, you have to work more hours. And this is what I didn't want, and I've realized that this is not what I want. And really, I'm just sort of rambling on in this podcast because it's the first one, but really the key takeaway is that you can actually live your life by design. And in this journey where I'm starting off from zero, in terms of, I've now gone on to try entrepreneurial things in terms of marketing for dentists. I've set out to go out and make £1 million business, and I've failed so many times in terms of trying to make that happen. You know, I've not made significant cash where I can say, yes, I've made £1 million. So this podcast is going to be featuring, you know, the things that I've discovered in terms of living a life by design, and my journey towards getting complete freedom. And I think by me trying to seek out that, which every man will be seeking out, hopefully I can find clues and ideas that will be beneficial to other men. And not just that, I can find people that can guide me in terms of doing this. So I'll be trying to get people to be on this podcast in order to create some interviews, get some interviews, and interview some really great people that have already achieved this, and try and get some insights on how me as personally can go to that place of complete freedom, but also just live that life by design. And this is exactly what I want for every single man in the Men of Honor group. And I would like for you to join the Men of Honor group if that's what you desire as well, because with men, we always find it difficult to rely on other men, because we always think that it's a bit of a weakness to do so, to confide in another man. And sometimes we try and keep things suppressed because we have to show that we are strong. But there's no judgment when you come to the Men of Honor group. It's a brotherhood, and this is exactly what it is. It's a brotherhood where we look after each other and make sure that we achieve those goals. And again, for me, I'm looking for complete freedom, and that's what I'm going to be sharing over and over in this podcast. And it's not just a podcast for just one episode per week. It's going to be every single day. So every single lesson I'm learning in terms of marriage and business and parenting and just general things that you learn in life, and things that will be going towards a complete freedom. So thank you very much for listening to this. If you want to learn more and get into the brotherhood, go to Facebook and join the Men of Honor Brotherhood. And in fact, it's just called Men of Honor, not Brotherhood, but just the Men of Honor. And it's a group for you if you want to if anything else comes up, if you want to see the icons that are there, it's what looks like a warrior. It's a black and white logo, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. If you just answer all the questions before entering the group. It's only for men, so unfortunately we're not going to be allowing any ladies. Ladies, if you're listening to this podcast and you've got your husband or your partner, can you get them to join? And they're more than welcome. Your husbands, this will help them to become better husbands, not just better husbands, but just better men for themselves, because it's all about men becoming real men, masculine men, and not in the putting down women way, but in terms of enhancing our relationships and really making an impact on this world. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm just so excited I can't stop talking. But thank you very much, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in the group. Take care.